Podcast. I'm your co host, Dr. Sherelle Hobson, and I have my partner in crime here, Mr. Brian Street. We want to thank you all for your support over the last 2 years. We have a special guest today, and we thank you all who have been waiting today. I've been getting messages like, when are y'all starting? When are y'all starting? So, thank you for your patience. We are here and we will always be here. Just make sure you do your part in sharing this live video because it's important that not only that you support us on the Black podcast, but that you're continuing to contribute to the Black community by sharing the knowledge, the journey, the stories, the the guests and their resources that they have to your circle of people, because we never know who's in our circle that we can be an impact or an inspiration to. So please make sure that you're doing your part in sharing this video today. We have a special guest, and I know he has a remarkable story, and so we can't wait to hear from him. Brian, you got something for our guests, our
Well,
audience?
not really. Yeah, more so the audience. A lot of times people, and it's one of the reasons why we do the Black podcast. A lot of times people see only one dimension of who you are. So, a lot of people only know me for certain areas. Some people only know me from the graphics and website design space. Some people only know me from the social work, working with clients to help them through mental and emotional trauma. Some people only know me through the financial behavior, helping people change how they look at their money and how they act and spend, budget, so on and so forth. I just want to call out for everyone to actually dig into us as co-hosts, dig into Dr. Hobson, dig into myself, into our websites, and I'll make sure that we share it before the end of tonight's session, just to know how we can add value across various different sectors. One of the things that we wanted to do to bring, or one of the reasons why I wanted to bring the Black podcast is to show that there's so much value to be given from people across our community, and it's easy to look at someone and see a couple pieces of their work and think that you know what they're about. So just kind of wanted to allude to that, show that we are multifaceted. We're not either one of us how do they say it, a monolith. Like, just because you see what you see in front of you doesn't mean you know who you think you know who we are. So the same goes for our guest. You may make up your mind about what he's about just by taking a look at his bio, taking a look at his social media presence, but then you actually have a conversation with him or hear him on our show, and you're blown away. And that's one of the things that we have to be more cognizant of is let's ask questions. Let's talk to people. Let's hold dialogue and stop making assumptions, because when we make assumptions, we hold ourselves back from really getting to know people and getting to know how they can add value to our lives or vice versa. So off that note, we're going to go ahead and bring our guest for tonight in. Um, when you see his scenery, you might be like me, like, okay, I see you out here. But that's just another testament to don't judge the book by its cover. Don't think you know who you're looking at before you actually see what's going on. So without further ado, Daniel Fountenberry, how's it going?
Hey, I am so happy to be here and honored to be here on the Black podcast. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, it's our
Absolutely.
pleasure.
Absolutely. I am super jealous right now. The background. I'm like, maybe I need to find. I was trying to look for a filter that looked better than your background. Like maybe it was on a beach or something, but it didn't really come off real, too
I'm
real.
not, whether it be my background or my mouth, I'm not into filters. We keep it real.
Absolutely.
100, no capping.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We definitely need more of that. We in our community we've told ourselves and other people, fake it till you make it, but the faking gets old.
Mm,
So
mm.
it's definitely it's time to graduate from faking to start making it and start making it happen so we can be in that space. So thank you for being you and accepting the invite to be on the Black podcast. We definitely look forward to meeting and learning more about who you are and your journey. Um, we know that behind every glory is a story. And so we want to start off with just who you are, where you're from, and give us a little bit of a background of the dynamics of your family.
Okay, so Daniel Fountenberry, and I am from East Palo Alto, California. That is a town in the San Francisco Bay Area. Most folks have heard of San Francisco, Oakland, LA, neighborhoods like Compton. There's also a community called East Palo Alto, which was a historical Black community incorporated in the early 80s, was a hotbed of Black radicalism. My mom told me that my grandfather, he had given the local Black Panthers in Oakland cover in our church. So when things got too hot in Oakland, they would come down to East Palo Alto and they would have meetings secretly in our church. It was a city that was almost renamed Nairobi in the early 80s. We had a rich, loving, tightly knit, well connected, God fearing Black community. And then the crack hit. And we had one of the worst crack crime related runs in the 80s and 90s. So when I was in middle school, high school, our city was the U.S. murder capital. So D.C. was the murder capital in like 92 and 91 and 93. And our city, unfortunately, was the murder capital in 92. And so growing up around that level of violence, just crime and violence, it leaves a lasting impact on you. But many of us who grew up in that community, we were super dedicated on, okay, it's not just about getting out. It's like, what change can we make? And so when I look back on my peers, those who graduated, went on to college, everyone's working at some kind of service-oriented profession, whether it's education or social work, whether they're building businesses for social good. So I think in terms of me, my background, like I said, grew up in East Palo Alto, single mother, um, went to private schools mostly, was in a lot of spaces where there were not many of us, um, feeling unwelcomed in my school, sometimes unwelcome in my community, because at that time, we didn't have the Barack Obama archetypes. So you're a young Black man growing up, speaking properly, taking to your cities. Oh, you acting white. You acting white. It was a tough time for Black kids, and especially on the West Coast where we didn't have that tradition of like Black colleges. It seemed like something happened in the 70s and 80s, and crack separated our community from our rich intellectual history, and all of a sudden everybody was thugging and even frankly anti-intellectual. Um, and so yeah, it was a bit of a tough time for a young Black boy to find his way, but by the grace of God, I had people in my church who supported me, my community, and I made it. Um, and I love my community, and I remain close to many people I grew up with. But yeah, anyway, I share that because it's not. I don't want to just another Black boy made it story. Um, but more so, I understand um, what it's like to grow up and to be in circumstances where people have low expectations for you, and to have to overcome those expectations. But I think first, believing yourself, convincing yourself that you can do that, that God has great things for you to accomplish and is there for you. I remember growing up writing on my test, like, I can do all things. I can do all things. Now I understand that verse a little bit differently. That verse isn't about prosperity gospel, having all things, but the power to endure. Um, like Paul endured so much. And so, yeah, so, that was my story growing up. Thank God for my mother, for my church community, for the people who love me, for the people who poured into me, but always aware of what I owe my community. And so I'm
Absolutely.
happy to be here and to help in whatever capacity I can or share what I can.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, about, another a black young black boy who made it. Those stories, I'm not going to say get old. I don't know the right word for it, but um, me working in athletics and education for so long, even to this day, it would be it's a little devastating for me when I watch like the draft, right? Because usually those percentage that make it, have those kind of stories. Oh, they slept underneath a bridge. Oh, they were eating out of a garbage can. Oh, they had this. Oh, they had that. I used to always think about, okay, we're celebrating the stories or whatever we're doing with this 1%. We don't think about the 99% that don't make it. What about their story? Does that make their story yes relevant because they didn't make it to this certain level, so that means they didn't make it. And that's why we have a lot of trauma with our young black men, because that is the standard of making it, that is standard of being successful. So thank you for saying, that we don't want to keep being redundant in the stories. We want to tell our story, but we also want to make sure that we speak, um, so that we get resources and understanding and knowledge and wisdom from people's story, and not just hearing someone else's story. So thank you for that. If you could
Yeah,
just
one thing I want
go
to
ahead.
add to that is we got to be one thing we have to be aware of is that in many ways things are much more difficult for young black boys coming up today because in the 70s 80s you had the affirmative action movements and you had specific efforts on increasing the number of black people attending selective schools and efforts to draw them in. But I think the focus of diversity and inclusion has shifted and it's broadened, and so there's less specific focus on addressing the challenges that black people, especially young black boys, face. And so what that means is that as we see court challenges to affirmative action and other efforts that were initially focused on aiding our mobility, and those opportunities go away, it's even a little more difficult now because now people say, oh look, he made it, you had Obama, we do really need this help. And so maybe after in the aftermath of the shootings of the next black dude who shot and killed, there's an outpouring of grief, but otherwise folks move on. And so um, I want to be I'm concerned that we say, hey look, he made it, that's great, and people like to tell their success stories, usually really focus on them, and next thing go buy my book, whatever. But it's getting more and more difficult in the hood, and I see black middle class and upper class people moving further away from working class and poor black people. I see more hope and despair, and you listen to their music and you see it. It's reflected. It's coming from a darker place, not just hood, but like a hopelessness. Like you compare the hood music that I grew up on, like gangster, West Coast gangster
Run
rap.
DMC, yeah,
It doesn't have the it's rough, but it doesn't have the despair of this
mm-hmm.
soul music of the
Identity.
emo kind of stuff. It's ridiculous. We
Mhm.
weren't, people weren't just rapping about open suicide fantasies, maybe getting killed, but not offing yourself.
Right,
Anyway, yeah.
right. You're not
So
inviting people to come see about you. Like,
yeah,
what?
yeah. So we need to be present in our communities and with our youth.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I know that you spoke on just, if you can talk about like your journey a little bit in high school when you went on to, what you did after that, because we know that there's conversations, there's different, there's a gift, I guess, behind having this strength or willpower behind yourself, where some of us have it for ourselves, and then some of us gain that willpower through our church, through our families, through our parents or our friends. So, being that you were in went to a private school, still in this environment, you spoke on just being very proper. Talk about just a little bit about that journey, and then just how you continue to press on. Like, what was it that you knew then about who you were, that allowed you to continue to press forward, regardless of any adversity?
I wanna to be honest, I'll get that quickly because I don't think my story is that different or unique. I was blessed, like I, you know, the time when I was in high school, the graduation rate for Black kids in our community was like less than 50%. And so it was easy to stand out, frankly. And so it was easy to collect scholarship money. It was easy to get support because there weren't as many people on my race. When on my race, like, on the same path. When it came down to it, my mother wanted the best for me. She sacrificed. She worked hard, extra lot of overtime. People in my church were really supportive. Um, I when folks told me no, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway. And so I didn't hear as many no's in my community, but more so going to schools where I was just 1% Black. Um, so I think I was competitive, and I played sports. I think the classroom was where I liked to compete, and I think there was so much in mass media, my environment, to tell me that tried to tell me that Black people, that young Black men were lesser, that I felt like I kind of had to prove myself. And I felt that when I come across a lot of young Black men who grew up in similar situations, is that same thing. Anyway, I don't think my journey is that really that interesting or that different than other young Black people at that time who were fortunate to go to college and work and all that kind of stuff afterwards. Um, I think there's much more interesting things to talk about as we look at like what's happening now. But fast forward, so I went to UC Berkeley, um, graduated from there, um, taught school briefly in my community, but my path was working in news and nonfiction television. I've done every job you can do in news and nonfiction, in front of the camera, behind the camera, including being a journalist, and on air, a journalist, and I did a lot of on air work and producing work and worked in public television. Went to business school, got in the corporate side of media. So worked on the business side. Went to ABC News, where I was chief of staff, working on the exec team there. Became disenchanted with TV news and started making education products, because I worked in TV news because I wanted to make media that would uplift and inspire young Black people, kind of like what you're doing. And I didn't feel like I could accomplish that in TV any longer. So I decided to focus on the classroom, where we could potentially have young people's attention for a number of hours of the day. And so I started making educational media. My first was a product called Books That Grow, books that would adjust to students' reading abilities. That was my first foray into the tech world. I recently launched another venture called Co-Teacher, and this is a platform to support teachers. And so I know the topic of today's discussion is AI in education, and there are some things I want to talk about because I don't think we're talking about it enough. So I want to make sure that we get there fast. So pardon me for kind of taking over and talking fast, but I think we need to be looking forward. So my past is my past. I want to talk about the future.
Beautiful. That's what I want to hear. I've been in the educational space serving, as a leader as it pertains to mentorship, as pertains to leadership development for a while. And I've seen a lot of innovation. When I was working on my doctorate at LSU, there was a course that we took, and it was technology in education. And it really sparked my attention, all the various different technologies that they had that made students want to engage more. So if you don't mind, let's just go ahead and dive into that space. Like, what pulled you into that space, and what are some of the things that you've seen to be most beneficial when it comes to artificial intelligence and education?
I want to talk about three things that I think are important, that I think should be on the mind of every Black parent. Is we want our children to understand. We need to understand what it means to learn with AI, how to build AI, and how to live with AI. All three of these things have deep implications that we can go on and on, but just want to touch on three things. Um, Learning with AI, building AI, and living with AI. So we know that there is a teacher crisis happening right now. People are leaving the profession because teachers are not well treated. And what will happen is, especially in schools that serve our kids, the shortages are going to get worse because the teachers will migrate to where the work is a little bit easier, and the pay might be higher. So they may go to the suburbs and the exurbs. One thing I noticed when I launched my first product, Books That Grow, was the tremendous difference in how technology was used in schools to teach Black kids and schools that teach non-Black kids. School like well schools with white and Asian students versus poor schools with Black kids. In wealthier communities, technology is used to help you discover your passions and build and create. They say, okay, hey, you know what? Go build robots, go research any topic you like and write essays and use virtuality and explore. In schools that are educating Black kids, technology is used primarily for surveillance. It's used primarily to replace teachers and for surveillance. So we don't have any qualified teachers. So you sit in a computer lab, sit in front of the screen, read a very dull passage, take a vocabulary test, and we're going to tell you if your reading score goes up. And these products that basically surveil and attempt to replace teachers are incredibly expensive. And so there's so much money made off of our children. And so they're, and these products and people who push these products, they say they want to help our kids, they want to close these reading gaps. But I don't believe they do, because when our schools are in a perpetual state of crisis, there's always a need for a new program, and they tend to cost millions. So when we think about AI in education, AI will be used in some instances to help kids amplify their creativity and to personalize learning for them. Oftentimes, it will be used as a teacher replacement. Here's what we think you know. Here's the next thing you should know. But like I said, AI can be used to personalize education and say, okay, we can really pinpoint your strengths and weaknesses. But there's a lot of products that claim to use AI, but really don't. And, it's just drill and kill. So anyway, it's complex, but I think I want Black parents to be really mindful of how technology is used at their schools. I want them to be mindful of the amount of surveillance that children are exposed to. So for example, you have AI being used to say, hey, are you paying attention? Let me track your eyes. Let me track your movements. Let me take pictures and let me analyze this to see if you're on track. But what happens is these tools that are used to predict if students are paying attention or not, they just don't recognize Black faces well. And so they could say, you know what? We don't like that grimace in your face. Maybe you're cheating. Or they may get your face mixed up with somebody else. Anyway, so then kids using some program says kid may be cheating, kid gets in trouble, or kid has bad internet connection goes out, program says, you know what, he was trying to cheat on his test, this kid gets a demerit, he gets marked up, he's on the path to getting in trouble. Anyway, there are just more situations that can make technology go wrong for you. And when these technologies are used to replace teachers, and part of replacing teacher means keeping track of your behavior and judging if your behavior is good or bad, it could lead down the path of surveillance and punishment. So AI in education, it can be helpful. At the same time, we want to make sure we're not trying to replace teachers or surveil our students. This is a complex topic, but it's something that we have to be aware of. At its best, it can create a personalized learning path. At its worst, it could be, just useless, just throwing random stuff at you and putting you on a path of surveillance, extending the school to prison pipeline, deeper into your home, into your pocket. Anyway, it's a complex topic that we can unpack, but that is one thing. AI in education, learning with AI, building AI. More of our kids need to be on path to become builders of AI. And to be quite honest, AI is not as complex as people think. AIs are just tools that make simple decisions. Like, is this a dog or is this a cat? They make simple decisions, but really fast. So they can look at a million pictures of dogs and cats and segregate them. Ultimately, it's really just lots of decisions, simple decisions, very fast that you train it to make. Anyway, more of us need to be studying mathematics and statistics and understanding how AI works and how we can build AI, how we can use AI models that have been developed and put them into our own products and moving past. But yes, more of us need to be building with AI and then living with AI. AI will have a dramatic impact on the way we work. It's starting now. What we will see are more jobs, even white collar jobs, disappearing as AIs get better and better at doing repetitive tasks that require some thought, or just making our work more efficient. There were times when executives used to have executive assistants. That's like less common now because we have so many more software tools that can help you with your scheduling, that help you with your word processing. And now, for example, even in fields that require more research, like whether it be being a paralegal or an entry level lawyer, um, tools that can scan lots of text and help you find here's the right legal precedent. Um, anyway, our workforce is going to change tremendously. Many jobs will be impacted. Um, People who are really efficient and good at their jobs will be able to serve and support more people. Um, I have my predictions about the workforce, but anyway, it's going to change dramatically, and we got to make sure that more Black people are on the right side of these changes. You know, if you're not one who's on the super long stay in school track, that's fine. There are things that AI will never do. AI won't be your plumber. Like, there are many positions AI won't be welding just yet. There are many roles that are I don't want to say AI proof, but there'll be a long time before AI impacts them. Um, and I think there are also many other positions that are human related. Yes, there's, in terms of AI and the services, I don't know, AI writes news articles now, AI composes songs, AI makes movies. Um, anyway, the world of work is changing, and I've, and I haven't given you a concrete answer as to how that's going to happen, but I think that
Mhm.
we got to prepare to live with AI, and that's not just also work changing. Thinking about how policing is changing, how government services are changing.
Mhm.
There's a lot more surveillance. Um,
Yeah.
you could take a test on ancestry.com and your cousin goes to jail because now your DNA has been used to triangulate other people. So you're hearing about folks going to jail
Yeah.
because someone in their family took a DNA test, because your data is being used in ways that you consented to without knowing it.
Mhm.
Anyway, the world is changing fast, and matters of race and class and wealth and all these issues that we've been dealing with are going to become even more challenging, and it'll be even easier to fall even faster for the middle class and
Yeah.
poverty.
Mhm.
It could be
Absolutely.
easier to get yourself in trouble, harder to get out. But there's also opportunities as well as this things change. Anyway,
Absolutely.
I don't want to paint a blank picture. I want to be optimistic. It's a great time to build things, start a business. I'm wearing
Mhm.
a hat. This is Alchemy. This is a Black owned French watch brand, luxury watches that you can change and swap the pieces out. They are also one of the first watch brands to integrate NFTs and Web3. So there's creativity happening. There's good stuff happening to be a
Yeah.
part of. But the world is changing. That's why I'm saying we got to be looking forward. We got to be
Yeah.
preparing for the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, my background has been in education for 17 years. And so, when you have an opportunity to work in those different spaces in your, predominantly white neighborhoods, your predominantly Black neighborhoods, you do get to see the difference of like, okay, well, wait a minute, we're a little behind when it comes to, how we're delivering education or approaching that space. When you talk about AI and education, um, it definitely benefits the place that we get to personalize, where our students are at, really meet them where they're at. So I think that's the great thing. But like you said, there are some setbacks when we talk about the lack of resources or training that we may have in order to prepare them to use it, to utilize it properly so that it can be effective. What are some things that you feel that uh, what are we doing that's good right now within the community when it pertains to AI in education? But what are some things that you feel that, are we providing enough resources and education and knowledge behind what it is and how it benefits our students and families? Are we giving our people enough information so that it can be effective for our students in that space of education?
we're not even in the game yet. When it comes to our education, we're not really in control. Um, we're we our parents are not empowered. Um, our schools aren't funded. I think when it comes to to education, I think it's unfortunate. I mean, when you look at the state of most majority Black public schools, they're in shambles. They're not doing it well. I mean, I think you're in Texas, you have places in Texas where they're doing a little better, but nationwide, the numbers just aren't good, and so we're not at that table. There are very few of us who are building education technologies that are used at scale in thousands of schools. Um, Now, the people who build these technologies may speak about our interests, but we're not in these discussions. And I think right now, um, I think talking about AI in schools. I mean, AI will be part of all technology products. I think it's just better to talk about like technology in general. Um, the the and I don't our parents, our community, our families were not or we haven't been involved in these decisions. I don't think we know that we can be. Um, we're I don't know. I guess maybe the battles we're fighting are around school funding. I guess there's so many issues facing our schools that we're not digging deep enough into curriculum and instruction and strategy. But um, like I said, I spend time and I'm involved. I'm in circles of education and publishing, and I don't see a lot of us there. I think that there are so many crises that are hitting our schools, um, that we're not our parents just aren't focused on it. And I think it's important that we focus on justice and equity, and there's discussions about teaching history properly. I think that so much of the focus of Black activism is on justice and equality, and I think those things are important. Um, but yeah, I don't get the impression that we're thinking enough about technology and how technology is shaping our futures. Um, it's important, equity, teach our history correctly, all that stuff. But yeah, we're not thinking enough about the future. We're not thinking about enough about technology.
Yeah, I think no, I know that's very true. I've actually got to hop off in about 4 minutes. I got a hard stop at 6, but I want to make sure Dr. Hobson push forward with you. But before I do leave, I want you to share with us like what are some of the conversations we need to be having with our kids? What are some of the programs we need to be putting them to really get them prepared for the future? Because there's so many kids right now that are entering college, and by the time they graduate, their job that they thought they were going to be going towards their job that they thought they were going to be going towards by the time they graduate is going to be obsolete because technology is going to have taken over in that time frame. So what are some areas that you would say parents should, for those teenagers that are maybe about to get into high school, they're about to start searching for colleges, so on and so forth, what are some of the areas, some of the activities, some of the programs they should be looking towards?
I think the first thing is reduce unproductive time on social media. Um, Stuff like Instagram and just scrolling and things where they're comparing themselves. First, spend less time getting lost in the lives of celebrities, fake celebrities, wannabe celebrities. I think it's just
Facts.
a waste of time.
Yes. Can you say that
Uh,
again? Please say
yeah,
that
yeah,
again.
yeah. Reduce the amount of time you spend getting lost in the lives of people who don't care about you, who have nothing to do with your life, your success, um, and who are projecting fake lives that may make you feel insecure and inadequate. We need to encourage our kids to be makers and builders. And so I would say encourage your children to make things, to build things. Encourage your children to be creative, to make, to build, to take risk. If they're interested in the web, challenge them to build a website and to try to sell something. Um, Creativity, problem solving, and this is something else. I was really studious and academically focused, and I think now as a new parent, I don't think I'll be as focused as much on grades for my own children. I want them to learn to be really good at relating to people and understanding people, because people skills are, I see technology, the way people use technology is producing people that have a difficult time navigating people IRL in real life. And so I would say teach children how to build things, how to create things, and how to deal with people.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because we need that, those social skills are important. If you can have all the gifts and the talents in the world, but if you're not able to have a conversation with someone and learn how to work with them and build and create, I think that um, I'm going to be an old mom, but when that opportunity does come, I definitely want to make sure that I allow my child or children to explore new things and try different things. I think that I can't remember what I was watching a while back where they were speaking on, uh, you have one type of kid who's in everything and asking 1,000 questions and getting answers. Then you have this other kid who's getting into things and asking questions, and you get you're talking too much, get over here, stop touching stuff, stop asking so many questions. So we have to allow our our youth to ask questions and to feel comfortable wondering and being curious about something. And like you said, the social skills, how to relate to other people, because that in itself is um, something that a lot of our youth, they are lacking. That they are lacking the social skills. They think social skills is who they interact with on social media that they've never met, but if you were standing in a room, can you have a conversation with someone? Are you able to, even like elevator pitches, are you able to let somebody know who you are and what you can do within the 30 seconds? A lot of our youth don't even know that. They don't know who they are. They don't know what their gifts are. They know that success. I remember talking to a student, and they were a business major. And I said, "Oh, I see that you're a business major. What is your goals? What type of business would you like to have?" I don't know, like Rihanna. Well, you don't have to have Rihanna's business to be successful. What do you want to do? So we don't allow that space of exploring who they are and what gifts they have and the interests that they have. And I know you spoke earlier about being spiritually connected, has helped you on your journey. And some people aren't there, but I know that he has a gift, and it's a gift and a purpose for our lives. And so when we can tap into that space and know who we are, if you can just expand on the gifts that you have, you're able to your gifts will make room for you. You will be able to expand and make money and be, if you want to be famous or whatever it is that your desires are. But just expanding on the gifts that you have. And I don't think we spend enough time exploring or allowing our students to explore that space. We definitely need to do a better job in education of allowing our students to do that, not saying, well, you're not going to make no money doing that. Well, you don't know that because you may
Mm,
be the one
mm,
to create it, So
mm.
uh,
Absolutely.
I think we got to have more conversations, definitely have to have more conversations like that and allowing us to be, feel safe enough in that space or comfortable enough in that space to explore. Um, we definitely have to do more of that. So I would totally agree with that.
Well, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure to be here and to speak with you, and hope I get a chance to come back. And yeah, and let's stay in touch. Interested in definitely learning more about the work that you and your colleague do. And yeah, no, I'm excited about this podcast, this discussion, and I'll definitely continue to follow. So thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for operating your space and what you're doing and what you're doing in our community. And we will definitely keep in touch and stay in touch on what you're doing and what we're doing. And we never know what, um, how our journeys might align later on in the near future. And so thank you for accepting the invite to be on the Black Podcast. And we wish you luck in all your future endeavors.
Great,
And,
thank you
and
so
ever
much.
ever so quickly, I just like just the richness. I couldn't leave, but I encourage our audience to please go back and listen very, very intently on the last 20 to 25 minutes, because that's where the meat and potatoes were. That's, like you said, I want to talk about the future. And that statement to the question that I asked regarding what would you be telling our kids? Spending less time on focusing our attention on people that don't care anything about us. Like the young lady Dr. Hobson mentioned, I want to be like a business like Rihanna. No, who are you? What is it that you have of value to give to the world? That's what your business should be focusing on, not on what someone else is out here doing. So I just wanted to thank you again, Daniel. Very, very great information. And I know we've mentioned a few times with other guests that we got to have an encore. Let's mark this down. Let's go ahead and plan this. We got to have him on again, like ASAP.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do something in the spring.
Absolutely. We'll definitely do that. And blessings to you and your new family. And we will definitely be in touch very soon.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming on the Black Podcast. Please make sure you continue to share our video. Make sure that any of the past videos that we've had, of previous guests, please make sure you also share those. Go back and look at some of those videos, take notes. We have to do more than just watch, shows and just taking that present moment. What can we do to actually apply this information and other people's experiences to our lives? What can we do to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes that other people make? And what can we do to capitalize off the information that people are giving us? I think we spend too much time gathering this information, but not applying the information that we're getting. So thank you for continuing to support us on the Black Podcast. We are here every Thursday. Sometimes we may be on during the week, just depending on what guests that we have, but usually we are here on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Central Time. You can also find us on wearehsba.com. You will learn more about what we're doing within the Black community, what we're doing within education, how we can bring mentoring and leadership programs into your secondary and higher education spaces. It is so important that we continue to grow, we continue to push forward, we continue to execute in excellence, and we continue to give each other encouragement and motivation, because that's how we grow ultimately as a group. If we hold this information into ourselves and we don't apply it to education, we don't apply it to our workplace, we don't apply it to our daily lives, then we'll continue this cycle of what culture is. What is the culture? If we think about our culture came from resilience. Our culture came from um, perseverance. Our culture came from hard work. Our culture came from being consistent. Our culture came from standing up for what we believe in. So, are we really living and demonstrating our culture um, in today's world? So please make sure that we are sharing these content, that we are going on to we are hsba.com and looking at what we're doing and how you can contribute, whether it's monetary gifts, whether it's volunteering, whether it's sharing ideas, whether it's linking up and collaborating in partnerships. It's important that we're doing those things. That's how we continue to grow. So we want to thank you for being a guest in our audience for the last 2 years. And again, share, go out and support our guest and see what he's doing in his life and what changes he's making. But we love you and we thank you for your continuous support. Please go out and make an impact in someone's life. Be an inspiration to the people that are around you. Be a person of influence and live on purpose. We will see you very soon next week. We love you. Thank you. And the Black Podcast.